Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Igniting the Next Generation Summit. And my name is Jeff Forrester, and I'm very honored to be a part of this amazing opportunity to share tips and ideas that will make a world of difference in your teen's life. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 specific areas: how you can help them focus on what they can control, positive self-talk, as well as recognizing their emotions. But before I get into that, let me tell you a little bit about me. Like I said, my name's Jeff Forrester. I live in the Orlando area with my wife, Tammy, of 18 years. My son, Deuce, is 16 years old, and my daughter, Lorelai, is 13. So that has me well equipped to understand and help you navigate through the teen years because I'm doing it myself. I also coach student athletes, teens, and young adults. And so I've been working with specifically this age population for the last 2+ years. And it's a wonderful opportunity to pay things forward because we all wish we had someone to give us the cheat code, so to speak, of how to navigate the obstacles of life. Okay, so let me start with a story. So imagine a teenage girl named Sarah who's an unbelievable track athlete as well as a great student. The problem is, though, she often focuses on the things that she can't control and becomes overwhelmed and stressed. She thinks about the opinions of others. She's thinking about the outcome of her track meets, even the weather. She's worried about the weather. And so her coach noticed that one day and said, "Sarah, why are you so focused on the weather when you can't control it? What you can control is how you prepare and strategize for when bad weather comes." This little change in mindset was a game changer for Sarah. She immediately shifted and started focusing more on her training, more of her mindset, and the strategy when bad weather happened. So not only was she able to perform better, she was also less stressed and less overwhelmed. So as parents, we can help shift this mindset into focusing on the controllables. For example, so instead of worrying about the test and how well they're going to do, they can focus more on studying, eating right food, and then getting rest so that way they feel rested and confident going into that test. Instead of worrying about making friends and who's going to like them, they can be the kind neighbor and the good person that just will attract other good people to them. So as we shift this mindset from worrying about what they can't control to what they can control, we're building more resilience and adaptability that allow them to navigate life's challenges as they come up. Okay, I know that you're rolling your eyes and you're probably saying, well, that's easy for him to say. How do I do that? And so what I like to do is I have to keep things super simple, not just for me, but if you want people to adopt something and really be able to embrace it, it's got to be easy to understand. So what do? I take a piece of paper, I draw a line at the top, and I draw down a line down the middle, and I just list what you can control and what you can't control. And then you just start to proceed to make a list. And I'll challenge you as your young person starts to add things in the can't list, challenge them and make them think, is that really something that they can't control, or is that something that they can control? And once you have a good list of can control items, help them create a process and a system to focus on 1 or 2 of those things that will help them move forward in the process. All right, now let's talk about positive self-talk. I want to tell you a funny story about a young man named Jake. Again, great soccer player, great student. And during one of his key critical games, he missed a goal. As soon as he missed that goal, he started to tell himself how bad of a player he was, that he was terrible. I can't believe that I'm even on this team. And he just continued to beat himself up so much that he spiraled out of control and downhill quickly. So much so, the coach had to take him out of the game. So hearing him say these things to himself, the coach pulled him aside and said, "Jake, why do you say those things to yourself?" Jake wasn't aware, didn't know. He's like, "Okay, let me give you an offer. Let's say you're your own best friend. What would you tell yourself after missing that shot?" So Jake thought about it for a second and said, "Well, I probably would say, look, keep your head up. Not everybody makes every single goal. Just keep going on that, out there trying." So that little story helped Jake realize how dangerous negative self-talk was, and that if he would say something and give a different suggestion to someone else, why wouldn't he take the own suggestion for himself? So positive self-talk is like having a best friend in your head. And we have to encourage our teens to speak kindly to themselves. So when setbacks happen, they don't beat themselves up, but they encourage themselves to be resilient, to be adaptable, and keep moving forward. Stress how important it is that the inner dialogue in their head shapes their reality. That way, we can have them confident, resilient, and continue to move forward for success. Negative self-talk for me is one of those things that's painful to observe, but it's also something we've all done, and I've been very bad at this for most of my life. And what helped me and what I encourage young people to do is an exercise called Signs for Success. I love sticky notes. So what I do is I encourage all the young people to start to write their signs of success and put them everywhere. Not necessarily on their chest, but are you the word loved, the word confident, the word champion. The more of these things that you start to program your brain and you read every day, all day long, I promise you, you will believe it over time. These things don't happen overnight, but put these sticky notes, not necessarily on your chest, but put them anywhere where you see them on a regular basis and speak these words to them. And whenever you hear them say something that they shouldn't say, that's a negative self-talk, then drop one of these words in, and you'll start to see over time that they too will start to say the good things to themselves and believe it, because they are successful, they are loved, they are champions, and they are confident. Okay, so here we are. We're about to land the plane. So lastly, we want to talk about recognizing and being self-aware of your emotions. This may be the most important, but also the most difficult. So I want to tell a story about Emma, who was on the debate team. So every time Emma had to get up and do her portion of the debate, she was extremely nervous, so much so she thought something was wrong with her, and she even considered quitting the debate team. Her teacher pulled her aside because she saw the promise and how bright that she was and how good that she was, and said, let's really dig into this a little bit more. And it wasn't fear, and it wasn't nervousness, and there wasn't anything wrong with her. It was excitement. It was an anxiousness that's positive to get up and to perform at a high level. All good things. But until she was able to label those emotions, she wasn't able to manage them properly. So it's so important for us to be aware and understand why we feel what we feel if we want to course correct and move in the forward direction. Emotional awareness is crucial for teens, because if they understand their emotions, then they can manage them better. They need to understand, as do we, that our emotions are not our enemies. They're signals. They're signals to something else that's going on. And once we can understand them and manage them, we have a less likelihood of being overwhelmed by them. So encourage your teen to check in with themselves regularly and ask themselves, why do they feel the way they do? How can they control themselves based on a situation that they had previously? Because the key is, let's lessen the stress, lessen the anxiety, and being overwhelmed and not understanding our emotions as they come up. Okay, it's time to get your paper out again. Again, I like to be simple. And one exercise that helps me help other people, as well as helps myself understand and become more self-aware of my emotions, is called BFS. So what does that mean? It's body language, it's focus, and self-talk. And we've talked about those in some way, shape, or form previously. And that's why I felt like this was going to be the most critical last step in exercise. So grab that piece of paper. And what I like to do is take that piece of paper, draw a line at the top, draw a line down the middle, and then each section here, and have a column for when you're at your best, when you're at your worst, and then you'd have a B for body language, F for focus, and S for self-talk. And this is where we want to anchor your teenager in this best column. So they're going to write down and describe, what is their body language? How does that look? How does that feel when they're at their best? What is their focus when they're at their best and they're in the flow? And what do they say to themselves when they're at their best? Have them close their eyes and imagine a situation in their life that they can recall when they felt like they were just hitting on all cylinders. That's what we want to anchor, that image and that visualization of, so that way they can go back to that anytime they need it. Then, just as important is, what is their body language when they were at their worst? What's their focus when they're at their worst? And then what do they say to themselves when they're at their worst? This is so important to have these two juxtaposed to one another so they can start to recognize when they're not at their best. Then it's important for them to think of, what can I do to release whatever emotion, whatever body language, self-talk, or focus that they're facing to get them back into that best column? And then how do they refocus as they are moving into that best? Everybody's looks a little different. But again, anchor them in the best. Imagine that that's how you want to be all the time. We know we won't always be there, but let's spend less time in the worst column and more time in the best column. Okay, I want to quickly recap the 3 exercises that we had. So the first one is the can control versus can't control. This is going to help them understand where they need to focus all of their effort and not in the can't control column. Then we have the signs of success. Program your brain to have positive self-talk. And then the last one that we just covered is the BFS. That's the best and the worst, but it's body language, focus, and self-talk. So let's ignite the next generation to feeling more positive about themselves, focusing on what they can control, and just being more self-aware of their emotions. So that way you have a happier young person, you have a household with less friction, and together we can help them be more positive and have a better outlook on life because we can control this. We are the owners of our own joy and happiness. And through these exercises, I hope that you found them valuable and would love to hear more about how you're utilizing them in your own life. Again, thank you to the Ignite the Next Generation Summit for allowing me to share some of my information. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and God bless.